world is in a parlor state, Earth is. Families are in a parlor state. There's a direct correlation. We can't have this ideal or this hope that the world's going to find a way to be harmonious with itself if we can't get it in families. And whether it be in the world or within families, we're going to have good and bad. And that comes back to narcissism. If we hold a perspective that narcissism's a bad form of behaviour, then that needs to be excluded from the family so that the rest at least can find a harmony. Because if one within a family or any other part of life is blocking the good, then it has to be removed so that the good can survive. We'll never get anywhere on earth until we can get the families more harmonious.
And are the families meant to become harmonious and stay together, or are you sometimes supposed to exit a family to get over your karma?
Well, if it's against your values, and many families are, you're meant to exit and you find your harmony elsewhere. The converse is, if the family unit is a positive, harmonious without one, then the one needs to exit or be exited so that they can see for themselves in the long term that it's not very rewarding being bad.
With the saying, blood is thicker than water, is there any truth to that?
Spirit would say, no, that's not true. Because if a person is in the family, as Ian has just said, person's in the family, working against your values, the only option you have is to walk away, and you're meant to do that. And when we talk about a narcissist, we must also remember that the foundation of a narcissist is they are deeply insecure, hurting people. There is a wound there somewhere that has never been healed. And so this desire for power and for success is just driving, because that's how they feel good about oneself. I once worked for a narcissist, a very, very profound narcissist, and a very difficult person to penetrate at any place, and a profound liar as well, and they often are. This person had suffered a bereavement on a particular day, and I had gone to them to say, I'm sorry of what has happened. And those words were the words that just cracked the facade of this person. They just launched into telling me about a sibling who had died in childhood, and how they had felt rejected ever since and pretty much abandoned by the parents obviously through the grief and loss. And this person was telling me how at a very young age they had done a specific task for the parents that one wouldn't expect a child of about 9 to be doing, but had put everything they possibly could into doing this task for the parents, but the parents had not acknowledged it. And the pain that poured out of this person at that point in time, there was the whole story of the trajectory to narcissism. It was as though, in fact, what they said to the parents was, well, bugger you. You're not going to acknowledge me or ever give me what I need, so I'm now going to go and get it for myself. And that just became the drive in life. Yeah? But underneath was this rejected little boy that had never, ever been healed.
So in a relationship, are you supposed to stick around to find the rejected little boy or hightail out of there?
Well, there's not many narcissists will go for therapy. If they did, there might be a hope, but there's not many.
Narcissism seems to be growing. Is there any truth to that feeling?
I would say narcissism is growing because we're living in times where power, success, obtaining is the number one God. We're in a society where we want more and more and more and more, and we just throw away what we don't want. And there is a huge social disparity between people. And is narcissism growing? Yes, I would say narcissism is probably growing more than any other mental condition, and I don't think it's fully understood.
Totally agree. The models are bad. Not only do we have the greatest disparity between the rich and the poor, we have the greatest disparity between the most powerful and the least powerful. Political leaders are hardly holding up a good model, and they're acting in self-interest all of the time. And so many of those, if not just so many of those, are narcissists. And what they're doing is clearly and blatantly out of self-interest, not out of what's best for the country or the constituents. They actually don't care. And they punish anyone who would act against them in any way. That causes people to see that as normalised, therefore to emulate, to copy, and it must spread as a consequence. And therefore, where do we find the good? It's symptomatic of the bads increasing.
But let's address high achievers in a family. A high achiever, what we would say on earth is a high achiever, a person who is a good person, who wants to achieve for the betterment of oneself and for the betterment of society. And let's assume both parents are high achievers, both working for the betterment of society, both working to grow oneself and with a reasonable amount of evolution. That's difficult in a family because they're driven. They're driven to achieve. And siblings are going to watch this, and siblings are going to feel that if they don't do this too, they're falling short somehow or other. So there's a burden on parents there as well to teach those siblings that their journey may not be like the parent one is. But those two driven parents and partners will come back into that family home with their mind still on achieving. How do they find peace as parents, as partners? What's really, really important in that situation is kindness, acts of kindness to each other, and showing the children that acts of kindness may be so, so important. Just taking that time out at home to do something for each other, whatever it may be, and just showing consistently to each other that in this high-achieving world that they are in and thrust into in this lifetime, they are still partners, they are still parents, they still care about each other, they're still showing acts of kindness to show that they care about each other, and finding that balance is so, so, so important.
Parents know inherently that they have to give something of themselves to the children. They don't always do it well, but they know that that's what they ought to. Then we have a blended family. And they're the ones I feel sorry for, everyone in it. But take the children who come in and, for example, they've got a new stepdad. It's not natural for that parent, for that stepdad to give acts of kindness and to give of themselves so openly as they would for their own children. Therefore, they'll feel set upon, they'll feel encroached. The children will feel the same. And it takes time for them to build that relationship that says, I now have to give something of myself. So it comes back again, how much are we going to give up? How much do we need to give up for the success of everyone so as not to lose ourselves in the process? It's very complex. Families are so complex, especially today with so many odd combinations of families.
Let's talk about parents who are parents but never wanted children. I think in my idealistic pearl, when I started to do counselling and discovered this, I was really shocked by this. I was really shocked. But when I got into deep counselling with some people, men and women, they would at one point very freely say, but I never wanted children. She wanted them and I just agreed because I wanted the relationship with her, so I just agreed. So here you have a father who never really wanted children, who's never really invested in those children. They're an encumbrance to him. They're a bother. They're, go away and leave me alone when I'm at home. And what really shocked me was the amount of women, of mothers, who would admit that and who would say, I never wanted to be a mum, I never wanted children, but he did. And I wanted the relationship with him, so I just agreed. And that to me, and still today, that to me is the saddest happening that can happen in life. That you've become a mother and you should have the responsibility for these children, but you really don't want them from the start.
And what if they were not meant to have children, but stayed through fear or safety in the relationship? Does that mean that they've put off the big plan of an entity that was supposed to come through to someone else?
It's not true to say an entity comes through that's meant to go to someone else. An entity comes through always to where they're meant to be. If a woman is not meant to have children and she goes and she has IVF and she produces a chemical child, that child is still sent forward to teach her something. Yeah, that child has still agreed to come forward to teach us something. And whatever it is, eventually let's hope we become enlightened to understand that if you're not meant to have a child, you're not meant to have a child. Let's try to manipulate nature. One day we might learn to come to peace with not every woman who wants a child is meant to have one. Be at peace with that. There's reasons for that. And the same for men.
For more spiritual knowledge, remember to subscribe. If any of the information Ian and Pearl spoke about piqued your interest, make sure you like and comment on this video below. There's so much knowledge and advice being delivered from Spirit to you via this channel. Healing your physical and emotional pains will guide you towards a more loving and meaningful life. This is the Spiritual Renaissance.